welcome to another episode of Gaming the System. You'll find me, Alex, we've got Jem, and we've got Matt. And we are three intersectional feminists, and we're here to talk about gaming and feminism. And this episode is one of a trend that we've kind of started doing, looking at gaming news for the month, as it were. So this month, there's been a lot of gaming news, as there always is, and most of it probably, if you're in the same news sites as I am, is probably not the most positive of news lately. One of the biggest stories I think that's come out of recent news at the end of February is one about yet more layoffs within the gaming industry for gaming developers. And the story is that Sony has had to lay off 900 workers in its PlayStation division. This was, I'm reading an article from The Guardian published on the 27th of February for anyone that might want to go and read it in more detail. But essentially, the news is that the company will be cutting 8% of its entire workforce, citing changes in industry and a need to deliver on expectations from developers and gamers. So yes, real-time cuts, meaning people essentially out of work, which is never good news. And I know, having friends who have been personally affected by layoffs in last year as well, it just seems to be a never-ending snowball of horribleness. But yes, basically the job cuts themselves will be occurring in the Americas, in Japan, in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and the Asia-Pacific region. So basically everywhere. And the entire London studio will be closing as well, which is interesting, because I was thinking to myself, I haven't actually done enough research, but I don't know if either of you know if that's PlayStation's only office within the UK, or if there's more than just in London. I'm making the assumption it's just in London, but I could be wrong. Something to look up for myself later on, perhaps. But yeah, basically the through line from the CEO was saying that we need to deliver on expectations, to continue to propel future technology in gaming. So we took a step back to ensure we are set up to continue bringing the best gaming experiences to the community. But this follows, as I said, a kind of spate of layoffs that have been happening over the course of the last year or so, or even further back. Microsoft has cut over 2,000 workers after its acquisition of Activision Blizzard, which we've talked about a lot in previous episodes for its various controversies. Let's see, Riot Games, the developer of League of Legends, said in January it was laying off 11% of its staff, so it just seems to be happening all over the place, really. Yeah, not the best, and I wonder if it's just the ongoing impact of the pandemic, or whether the gaming landscape and the demands of gamers are changing, or I don't know what your immediate thoughts are.
I think it's really interesting, isn't it?
It is.
I think that we're seeing a knock on now of all of those things, I think. And what fascinates me about it is that the gaming industry did so well during the pandemic, and so you would think that that they would be, hiring. But I'm wondering if, AI might have a thing about this. And I think also, the costs of everything has gone up. I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has seen that, just in their food budgets and just your day-to-day living costs have massively increased, and businesses aren't in any way immune to those increases. So obviously that means that, there's going to be an element of looking at ways to cut those costs, or to balance those costs out. And so I'm wondering if that's what's going on here, that it's about businesses, it's just business. It's not that the industry is necessarily changing. It's that the the world is changing. You know, the financial world is changing, and so in order to continue making ridiculous profits, they've got to get rid of more people. But yeah, I do wonder, with it being so close to all of this, the new implementation of AI and what it can actually do, if that's enabling this level of cuts. But it'd be interesting also to see, trying to look at it from a slightly more positive perspective. It'd be interesting to see what impact that has on like the indie industry, because, you know, like kicking 600 people out of these jobs they're not necessarily going to go out and go to a completely different industry. So that we may see an increase in smaller, more niche games companies and publishers and what have you coming out of this. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably not. Probably just doom and gloom and misery.
My theory on it is that the core of it was the SAG-AFTRA strikes in Hollywood. I think that they scared the shit out of the gaming industry, because they know that their plan is to phase out as many workers as they can and replace them with artificial intelligence, because then they get to keep more of the money. And there's no fiscal reason for the layoffs, because the gaming industry, Microsoft, come on. Microsoft is one of the most profitable companies on the planet. Gaming, Sony as well, and all these big gaming studios, they're going to be making obscene profits. They have been making obscene profits, and they're going to continue to, because the gaming industry is growing exponentially and will continue to. So there's no financial hardship for these massive studios with it, and so they know that we're going to do. They're going to fuck over people as time goes on, and they know that if the more time that goes on and these workers see, oh yeah, if we organise, then we can force them to limit what artificial intelligence does. And so I think they weren't planning to do this now, but as artificial intelligence seems to, in the last 2 years, seems to have made a massive leap forward for some reason, they've gone, okay, we'll do it now and cut them all loose before they've got a chance to organise. Because if they tried to do this in 2 years' time, when all of the game developers, a huge amount of their workforces have unionised together, it means that if Sony cuts 1,000 people, then everyone at Microsoft will go on strike, and everyone at Blizzard will go on strike. And now they're just going to cut them loose, as many as they can. But I imagine that they're going to do fire and rehire. So now these people, they're not officially employees, so they don't have all the employee rights. And you can just hire them as freelancers with no job security. Yeah. And it's I think the SAG-AFTRA strike is the biggest issue. That's my theory on it anyway. And then it will just come back down to greed and wanting to replace people with artificial intelligence so they can keep them.
Yeah, I was watching a video roundup of this story, and particularly in reference to recent cuts. I think also some cuts at EA as well. They were saying that a lot of the time the people that are let go are then so desperate to get back into work that they then accept lower pay as a result, because this is the trouble. This is what all these companies are getting away with. They're like, oh, well, we're going to have to cut costs, so we'll just let these people go and then offer the same jobs at lower salaries. And people are taking them because they're so desperate, because they've been laid off and they want that security. Another thing they did mention, though, in the video, which was interesting, there are some gaming companies whose higher-ups are taking pay cuts instead of letting staff go. And again, that's one for me to look up, just to see which companies those actually are. But there are apparently some where their higher-ups are making the sacrifices rather than sacrificing, the hardworking people who are having all their jobs let go otherwise, So, yeah, it's... and I think it's happening all over the shop, basically in every industry. So I think a lot of it probably does stem from the pandemic, but and it could just be, changes in the way we're all doing things now as a result of the pandemic. A lot of how we behave and how we navigate the world has changed, with remote working, for example, which probably has changed the way a lot of industries operate. And maybe that's reflected in our choices of game and how we choose to game now. But yeah, one to think about definitely as the year goes on. But yeah, it's just really sad to read about. I don't want to end on a downer, but it is. Yeah, and hopefully we've got a couple more news stories from you both. So we'll hear from you both. Let's hear from Jem. And who have you got with you there?
It's Leela.
Hello, Leela. Oh. For any listeners, Jem's cat has made a visit to the table.
Well, yes, mine is not so much a sort of breaking news story as an annual news story. So our listeners will, I'm sure, be aware that yesterday, the 8th of March, was in fact International Women's Day. And yes, there is an International Men's Day, and it happens in October, is it?
So I can't recall.
Didn't I'm asking you as our token man. So yes, but International Women's Day is a big deal, primarily because it's supported and encouraged by the UN. So it's an opportunity to celebrate women and successful women, and also to celebrate the input of women around the world, around the globe. And it's usually an opportunity to highlight some of the issues associated with being a woman, such as domestic violence and unfair pay, unequal pay, and caring roles and things like that. So it's an opportunity to highlight some of the issues that women experience around the whole globe, and also to celebrate women as well. So increasingly, you can imagine that it's used as a marketing tactic, and a bit of the whole pink washing and things. So it's a little frustrating in that respect, because it's usually you see a lot of companies being like, it's International Women's Day, let's do something that makes up for all of the misogynistic crap and the patriarchal bollocks that goes on through the rest of the year. So yeah, there was quite a few people talking about games that feature women, that games that have been designed and made by women, and games that women might like to play. So it's good because it does raise the profile of these games and these people. So, I'm not going to argue with it, because I think, all publicity is good publicity. But it's kind of depressing that, given that women are over 50% of the international population, we still have to wait for one day a year for our contributions to humanity to be recognised. So I thought what we could do is just I was interested in what your thoughts are about International Women's Day, and if you've done anything interesting for it, or seen any interesting posts, or anything that sort of made you either, think positively or negatively about the day. And then I thought we could maybe have a look at some of the suggested games and women of note in the games industry that some of the news articles included. So yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is the world of sport at the minute, because in particular football, is a global powerhouse now. And that's a systemic change in the world. It's not one-off things like, oh, we've got a voucher for Claire's for women and girls. It's going, right, the power structure around football has permanently shifted now, where it should have shifted 50 years ago when there was a women's football match, which was the best-selling football match in history. And the Football Association, a group of men, decided, it's what the word was. It's one of those words. It's unsuitable, inappropriate for women to play football. And that was the system, the patriarchy, crushing the lives of women for 50 years. And it's taken 50 years for these women to grind their way recovering from that systemic blow. And so that is a systemic, huge victory for it to be the way it is now. And that's the kind of change that gives me the most relief and comfort, because it's not a one-off thing. It's here to stay. And that feels really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always have sort of mixed feelings about International Women's Day. Like a lot of these days, it's a bit like, it's not quite the same, but I always think Valentine's Day is a bit of a waste of time, because like, why would you need one day in the year to tell your significant other how much you love them when you probably should be doing it all year round? Same principles apply to championing equity and the value of women in society, and such like. So yeah, I always have a bit of mixed feelings, but I think most of my experience yesterday was definitely an intersectional one. At least when I looked on social media, most of the posts I saw, because I follow a lot of disability advocates, were advocating for visibility of disabled women, and how often disabled women are left out of the conversation when it comes to feminism and things like that. And I know obviously we talk about it a lot because I happen to be disabled, and I'm sure plenty of other women we know are also disabled as well. And so, yeah, it was just kind of from that angle, I think, that I experienced International Women's Day yesterday. I didn't do a post for it. Sometimes I might feel like it, but at the same time, I often worry it can come across as a little performative. Certainly from people who don't talk about women at all for the rest of the year, it can be very performative. Like you've talked about, Gemma, the whole pink washing thing. And it just comes across as ingenuine. Is that the word? Yeah, the opposite of genuine. Yeah. So yeah, it's mixed feelings really, but you just kind of think, oh yes, well, it's very good highlighting it, but you've got to walk the talk, haven't you? So
yes, exactly. And I've had conversations with a friend who's a very active sort of race ally, and about things like how that you have these months and these days for various things, but it doesn't mean anything if it's not translated into meaningful, lasting change. It's just celebrating women on one day doesn't make up for the fact that there is so much other appalling stuff going on throughout the rest of the year, and I think that it's a shame, because in some ways these days can actually kind of let people off the hook. They sort of feel like because they've done that thing on that day or in that month, that like Black History Month is a lot of organisations will do a lot of sort of promotion around people of colour during that time, but but then the rest of the year they're not doing anything, and the rest of the year they're not supporting those groups. And I think, that this is one of the issues. And I think it's great that the UN do this International Women's Day, and I think it's great that they promote things like this year, as you said, it's inclusion, and that's been a really important theme for them. And I know that a lot of their projects do go on throughout the year, but yeah, companies just jumping on the bandwagon to talk about female games characters or women's football or whatever, just as a way to, it is just performative. And I'm much less engaged with it now than I used to be because of that, because I feel it's a little bit empty. So just very quickly, the Sun did a piece on International Women's Day, celebrating 6 women who created last year's best video games. Now, I am not a Sun reader; it just came up on a web search. And, I'm reading it, so you don't have to. But I wondered what you thought of some of these people. So they've suggested Yoko Shimomura, who wrote the music for Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, no, other one. Damn it.
Close though. Yeah. I was on those
close.
Ones. Yeah.
And Street Fighter 2 and King of Dragons. Yep. And so they've got her, and then they've got Brigitte Rina and Galua Elsa, who are worked on an Indonesian adventure game called A Space for the Unbound. And I'm not sure what they did. Oh, they wrote it. They wrote it. Have either of you heard of that one?
It sounds interesting.
No, I haven't heard of it. And Hannah Takada, who is a voice actor, so she's done various Japanese video game characters, and then Tilly Steele, who we probably all know as the voice and performance director for Baldur's Gate 3. And hugely talented, because everyone loves the voice acting in Baldur's Gate 3, and it is excellent. And then Abby Howard, who wrote, and I hadn't heard of this one either, and I feel like, so this is good. This is why it's a good thing. So Slay the Princess. Have you heard of that? Apparently, it was one of the most highly rated games of 2023.
Well, that's passed me by completely.
Yeah.
I want to check out.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some stuff to look into there. And I'm just going to say one other game that came up was, which I actually sent to a friend of mine who is a fencing instructor. And has a fencing group called for Feminist Fencing.
Nice.
So she's not into video games at all, but I said that, if you were to venture into the video game realm, this one might just encourage you, and it's called On Guard. And it's a fencing adventure that stars a dashing bisexual swordswoman who fights her way through enemies with the use of her sword, as well as environmental hazards like boxes and jugs. It's a colourful pixel-like aesthetic, with delightful combat made for a swashbuckling good time.
Sounds really fun.
Needless to say, she was like, yeah, that may actually just encourage me to get into games. So I just wondered whether you guys had any heard any video games and female-led video games or anything that you wanted to add to that list.
Oh, that's a good question. That's to my shame. I can't think of any off the top of my head, which is either a sign of how male-dominated gaming is, or how rusty my brain is. One of the two. But yeah,
We've talked about them all. We've talked about them, haven't we, many times before
I'm sure.
about this female. Because we do this all year round.
Yes.
Not just on the 8th of
Not
March.
just for Christmas. Yes. Did you have a news story to bring to the discussion, Matt? Or yes.
I do. I want to play. We're going to do a role play.
Oh, okay. Exciting.
So, I want you to imagine.
That makes me nervous.
Alex, you have $50 million in the bank.
Okay.
Okay, Jem, you have $100 million in the bank. And I have $75 million in the bank. Okay? So everything else is normal. We just
smells like maths.
No, so just it's a lot of money. We're good. Generational wealth. Don't ask how we got it. We just have it. So we do Gaming the System. And we've had an offer from a sponsor who wants to come in and come and have a strategic partnership. Who wants to have a strategic partnership with us where we work together and we go, hooray, and we tell the world how awesome these people are. So I'm going to go through a list of attributes about them, and I want you both to say flag when you see a red flag that would make you go, no thanks. Thanks, no. Okay, so they are completely happy with and enforcing the execution of gay men. That's
definitely a flag.
Oh, flag.
Flag. Okay, never mind then. So we'll give them that one. We'll say, okay, maybe. Oh, that's an old thing. That's something from 20 years ago, and they've changed everything about themselves. They are happy with and enforcing flogging lesbian women.
Flag.
Okay, I think we'll give this. We'll probably give these guys a miss. So the news story of this is the ATP, the Association of Tennis Professionals, the Men's Tennis Association, has entered into a 5-year strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia's, I think it's called the Financial Impact Fund or something. Or it's basically the
fund. It's PIF.
Investment fund. PIF, yeah, Public Investment Fund, right. And they've got $700 billion in that investment fund to invest in sport all over the world. And they are buying sport. And more specifically, they're buying men's sport because there isn't a country in the world where straight men aren't at the top of the privilege pole. And so what they do is they go to these sports associations where most of the men in them, if not all of them, are straight, or they are in the closet because they know that there are countries in the world where they are in terrible danger. There are 70 countries in the world where it is illegal to be gay. And so in the course of sporting history, that has kept people in the closet for their entire careers because they face not being able to have as good a career as they're good enough for. And this is the thing that really sickens me because it's selling out gay male players, and it's not because of money. Because have you ever heard of? There's a tournament called the Six Kings.
Yes.
It's not a tournament; it's an exhibition.
Yes,
match.
it's newly announced.
What do you know about that?
It's
Alex?
newly announced, and for some reason features all Grand Slam champions except for one, Holger Rune, who for some reason has been included. Basically, it's top male players who they feel like will sell the most tickets. There's an exhibition, I believe it's taking place in Saudi, or is sponsored by Saudi money, and it's new, and it's basically saying, look how great this new exhibition is. Isn't it great? We should all watch it. And that's all I know about it, because it's only just been announced. I'm afraid I have nothing more to add other than that I probably won't be engaging with it in any way because I don't find it an attractive prospect. But yeah.
Yeah. So the big things about this that I've picked up is it's called the Six Kings, and it's got Djokovic and Nadal, it's got Alcaraz and three of the other best, like 20-something tennis players. And now these tennis players, they already have tens of millions of dollars. Nadal and Djokovic are well on their way to be billionaires. They already have generational wealth. They don't need money. But what money can't buy is you being treated like a king, because they have all those pesky equality laws. So they're bribing the old guard of tennis to say to the new guard who worship them, it's completely okay. These guys are awesome. It's completely fine to take their money and go and be treated like kings. It's awesome and great and amazing. So Djokovic and Nadal are completely selling out the next generation of players, and the Saudis get to host the end-of-year finals for the under-19s for the next 5 years. So they are going to treat these young men like kings, and it's going to be an entire other generation of men who, if they are gay, are going to have to stay in the closet. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the best time for tennis right now. Sports washing is happening. It's already happened to golf. It's already happened to Formula One, and it's happening to tennis big time now. And it's not comfortable. And I wish it wasn't happening, but it is. And I think tennis was always a hostile environment for gay men. I certainly don't know of any active gay male tennis players, and I don't know of any previously active gay male tennis players. I know of gay female tennis players who've come out either on tour or after they've retired, but certainly not on the men's side, unless I've missed some obvious news. But I certainly don't feel like it can be a safe environment for male tennis players. And now all these partnerships with Saudi are just going to make things even more hostile for them. And it's something that I've been listening to on the regular basis. The tennis podcasts who I listen to talk about it an awful lot. One of their hosts, Matt, had an interview with Billie Jean King about tennis moving into Saudi Arabia and what she thought on it. And he was very candid and open about the fact that as a gay man, he was uncomfortable with it. And it was a very beautiful interview, and I recommend everyone go listen to it because it's amazing. Yeah, it's just a really difficult time, not only for the players, but also for everyone working in tennis, journalists, podcasters, commentators,
everyone.
TV presenters.
Think of that, yeah.
Everyone involved in these tournaments. I mean, it's a money grab and it's sports washing, and I do not like it at all. No.
No, and I mean, I'm not a sports watcher or follower, but it is such an influential thing in our society, and sports, for whatever sport people are into, they're into it properly, hardcore, and it has a big impact on our culture, on our popular culture, and the way that people think. And as you say, if these sports get into bed with organizations or countries in this way, then they are endorsing their behavior, and they are giving them an in to popular culture around the world, and they're saying, this is an acceptable, or at least a tolerable way for countries to behave, or for businesses to behave, and it sends a really uncomfortable message out. And I think it does really worry me, because even if I don't follow sport, I am part of the culture, I'm part of the world, and its impact on that is significant and not to be underestimated in any way.
Certainly, indeed. Well, I think that about wraps up this episode, unless either of you have anything to add.
I just wanted to add one quick bit at the end of that. So the Women's Tennis Association is being courted by them as well.
Indeed.
And
yes.
there's gay, lesbian tennis players who, if they have to go there every year, you're not allowed to skip. There are some tournaments you're not allowed to skip, and when you do, if you do have to go to a tournament, you have to get there early. And imagine being a woman with brown skin going to this country who could be mistaken for a Saudi citizen, and you've got to be there for several days beforehand. You're in terrible, terrible danger for that. And I can't believe they focus on the most powerful, the wealthiest tennis players, and go, oh, we'll treat them like kings. So they go and say, oh, everything's completely fine. Whereas, what if you're a ball boy who's gay? What if you're an agent who's gay? What if your brother's gay? All those things. And now the Women's Tennis Association is being courted like that. And with the promise of, one of them said that the WTA has, or tennis, whatever it is, there's a commitment that women will have equal pay by 2033. And women said, well, if the Saudis can get us there, maybe it's a worthwhile trade-off. But we can talk about that at another time.
Issue, certainly, yeah.
It's very complex, yeah.
Indeed. Thank you, Matt, for bringing that up as well. It's a valid point to end on. So that's our roundup of gaming news for this episode. So thank you for listening and watching, wherever you are. If you'd like to support us, there should be a link to our Patreon somewhere in the description or somewhere else on any of our social medias. We release new episodes every Thursday. And you can find us on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever else our podcasts are available. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.